All right. What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with my good friend Jim Brown with another GSD Mode podcast. And today, we've been talking a lot, at least the last several podcasts, real estate tips and so forth, discussing a lot of business planning. It's that time of year, at least as of us recording this, it's October 26th, 2022. And, I'm a big proponent in making sure that you have your business plans or whatever your goals are, not just business plans, but obviously we set health goals, we set family goals, goals in all aspects of life that are important to us. But I'm a huge believer in getting those dialed in before the end of October. So then that way we have November and December to go out there, prep, plan, get things dialed in and so forth. And as a lot of you know that have been on this podcast before, Jim Brown, in addition to being a good friend of mine and a business partner as well, but has been my personal health and fitness mentor for a lot of years. And, today I wanted to have him come on and just talk about health and fitness goals. It's obviously a very important role, if not the most important role, or portion of our overall planning, at least in my opinion. If our health goes, it's very difficult to go out there and fulfill our other goals and do anything else, right? So wanted to be able to pick Jim's brain on just top tips, but also, top reasons that people fail when it comes to setting up their health and fitness goals, going into that following year. And I don't know if you know this, Jim, but I know we were talking about this off air a little bit, but I'm like, I'm guessing that the New Year's resolution fail rate is probably got to be like 99%.
Oh yeah, I mean it's got to be high, probably somewhere around there.
Yeah. And but it makes sense. I mean, most people probably December 31st, New Year's Eve, they're like, well, I think I want this to have my goal and I'm going to start tomorrow. And there's just, not that preparation. And look, and I guess I don't really know, but, in the health and fitness side, but when it comes to like a business plan in that element, it's like, dude, I'll spend 30 days, man, coming up with plans, coming up with the strategies, and I'll spend, the rest of the year making sure that we've got all the right systems and all the right supporting things needed, whether that be habits, whether that be environments, whether that be systems, whether that be, just ramping up and scaling up to get that in play. And, and so for me, it's been easy to also take that over and carry that over to health. It's like, okay, well, if I got these goals I want to accomplish in 2023, well, let me then, set those still, before November 1st. That way I can spend November and December, just little things like getting in the habit of meal prepping, getting in the habit of, okay, I got to cut these things out. Well, that gives me maybe January 1st as an example. I'm starting some strict, crazy diet. Well, that gives me a couple months maybe to break some of those habits, and so forth. But, I don't know where we want to start here. I don't know if it's better to start, on the failure side, maybe, top reasons why people fail with this, or if you want to just, kind of jump into recommendations to ensure people have success with this.
Yeah, I think that the failure is pretty important to look at, but really when you kind of nailed it, when you're thinking like, hey, I'm going to start this strict diet on January 1. I mean, if your thinking is that and you're eating pizza and whatever and drinking you're going crazy December 31st, thinking that tomorrow morning you're going to wake up and it's all going to be different. It's not, you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you spent the last few months kind of easing into that, deciding what foods you're going to do, start to clean up your diet, and then say, hey, I'm going to go from eating these foods to January 1st. I'm going to be on a little bit more strict diet. I've been meal prepping, I'm used to it. I'm going to cut back on this maybe, or watch my calories. And then you kind of have a chance at succeeding. But going from, hey, I'm going to do this on the 1st, or diet starts Monday type mentality, it never works out.
Yeah.
I think that's just setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you work with a lot of clients too, in the, I guess personal training space, if you want to, classify it as that. Not probably personal training like a lot of people think. I know you're not a personal trainer all day long at the gym, but you consult a lot of people through, Zoom webinars and, from hormone therapy to diets to also exercise. But like, is there any root causes as to why you see people fail, not stick with it?
Well, to me, the clients that I have are real kind of hardcore, long-term, hard case clients, and all of them, the one that I'll use an example, he's been with me probably 4 years now. And for the first year, it was kind of a waste. It was just a waste. And finally, I just, kind of said, hey, I can't help you anymore because you're not ready. We tried to do something or whatever, and it just wouldn't work out. And it was all different types of approaches to kind of get him to buy in and start to make changes. It just didn't work. And then he came back to me one day, maybe 8 months later, and said, "I'm ready." I was like, okay. So I made him jump through all these hoops, and one was doing 4 hours on a treadmill, and the guy did it. So something internally clicked, right? He was ready to commit and do it. And then from that point, it didn't really matter how we approached the diet. He was ready to do it. And that's kind of one of the common denominators that I see people that are real successful that change like that. Something happens and they decide to do it. And then really, no matter if they've got it figured out or not, they're going to start to do it and start to move, forward in that direction and eventually figure it out. But that motivating factor, whatever it is, I think that has to happen. You have to be really ready to change and want to for it to happen, or else you're just going to fail.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, at least from my experience, just in any aspect of life, it's like people don't typically make the necessary changes to get a different result until the pain of the status quo outweighs the pain of the changes they need to make. And now when I say this, some people will sit there and, assume I have all this expertise in health and fitness, because I used to be a personal trainer, but like I'll tell people, like, dude, when you go get certified to be your typical personal trainer at a gym, I mean, it's kind of comical, I mean, don't get me wrong, like you learn some things, but not, to like, I still don't consider myself by any means an expert, but it was enough to be able to help out, so your average person,
Right.
with that. And what I found from that experience, was, and just to what you were saying, is to really get people tapping into their why. Like, as an example, if I had a client that just came in and said, "Hey, I want to lose, 10 pounds before the summer, so I look good in a bathing suit or bikini," I mean, that may be hit or miss. But if I had a client that came in and said, "Hey, I just had my first grandchild, and my father ended up dying prematurely of a heart attack. And now I'm about the same age that my father was when he passed away. And I'm in about the same health range, like I'm as overweight as they were. And it just hit me where, man, like I need to be here. Like I just had my first grandchild, and I don't want to just be here to witness them grow up, but I want to be here to be able to experience life with them and go out there and be that fun grandpa or grandma, right? And that created that, again, that burning why, that burning desire, to go out there and push the pain. Because the reality is, man, like this shit, no different than business. I know most that are, watching and listen to this, that, or that at least follow the podcast, or in business. But it's like we understand that and get that when it comes to business, that you got to push through pain. And same thing with showing up, doing your workouts, all the meal prep, the dieting, going through all that, it's pain. So, I found that, like, that being the core, at least with my, and I only did, it was a personal trainer for a couple of years, but it was like, if I could get people to tap into that, and then obviously keep reminding them of that and keep them on course, the likelihood of them pushing through and accomplishing their goals and sticking with it as well were
Right.
exponentially higher.
Oh yeah, I agree. There has to be that internal want. You have to have a compelling reason to do it, because I mean, let's face it, it sucks. If you're going to go from eating pizza to chicken and broccoli, it's not fun at first. Once you get rolling and you feel better and you lose some weight and you start to, your body feels different, you look different. I mean, you gain momentum and then it becomes easier. But it's difficult to start. But that was a great point. Other failures, same thing with a workout. Hey, I'm going to start to work out January 1st, or I'm going to join a gym in January. I mean, come on, that's joining the gym now, start to work out now. I just hate the January 1st kind of deadline. I feel that that's kind of a cope and you're pushing it off. So in prepping your health or diet or physique transformation for the new year, should start right away, should start now and not have a January 1st deadline. But yeah, to your point, anything that a New Year's resolution where I'm going to start Monday or I'm going to start the 1st, and you don't set up for that, I think is doomed for failure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree, man. It's, I always joke and say that, man, if I could be a gym owner from like January 1st, like from like, New Year's Day through like spring break, Right.
Yeah.
It's the rest of the
Yeah.
months that are, so hard to make it through. But yeah, that rush is always crazy. And, and then I got, and this is just, a guess of mine, a theory. But my theory, like kind of talked about maybe the number one reason why people fail is just, again, not getting extremely clear on what their health goals are and why it's important to them. So you got that burning desire as to why I must accomplish these goals. But then from there, you know, and again, I'm asking this to get your input on this, but when I look, and I'm just trying to, because this is how my mind works, dude. I've kind of got that engineer mind where I just try to reverse engineer, things and a process, if you will. But is okay, now I know that burning desire why, but then from there, getting extremely clear on exactly what the goals are. So then that way they can identify the best protocol, because I get asked all the time, just general questions of like what's the best type of workouts or what's the best supplements. And I'm like, well, it's like when somebody asks me, I'm looking for a good book. What book would you recommend? It's like, well, what problem are you trying to solve? Let's identify that first. I don't know how many books there are in the world, and there's a lot of amazing
Yeah.
books. But let's identify like what is a core problem that you need to solve right now, that if you can overcome this, like your business improves, your life improves. So find out the problem and then find the best or right book to be able to solve that problem. Because a lot of people then they don't necessarily know, okay, well then from there, what type of a diet, what type of workouts should I do? Because it can range vastly, right, based on what their goals are.
Yeah. The where to start or what's the best is a good question. I think, if we're going to speak about diet, I think that if you don't have any knowledge or you haven't dieted before, it's kind of easing into it. And the best way to do that is just figure out how many calories you're going to eat and log your food and use an app and do that and see what happens. That's the number one thing that I can tell you is people don't really realize how many calories they eat. It doesn't matter if you skip bread for lunch or any of that bullshit. You really have to figure out how many calories you eat and then what those calories are doing to your body. And with today's availability of apps and all that, there's an app called Carbon Diet Coach. I think you pay like $9 a month for it, and it's probably the best online diet app that you can get. Lane Norton is behind that, and he's a pretty solid guy. That you type in kind of your body weight, whatever, it'll figure out how many calories you should eat and just follow that. It doesn't have to be that hard. You don't have to go from eating normal or just like an average person to chicken and rice. You don't have to go from that to this diet extreme. But what you do have to do is start to realize what foods work best in your body and how many calories you can eat to actually see a change in your body. And I think that's always the first step. And that's always where I start with anybody, no matter who they are, almost, unless you're, kind of already a diet expert. We need to figure out how many calories you eat. And the easiest way to do that is log with an app and have an app that coaches you and tells you, where to start at least. That's the best way to do it. And again, today with the apps, it's just super easy. I mean, that's where I would steer anybody that is wanting to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, I mean, you really have, I guess, two components, and there might be multiple components, more than just two, but to regardless of what somebody's goals are, and I guess it doesn't have to be this, so maybe I'm kind of talking myself out of this thought, but I always look at it as, okay, you got the activity that you're going to be doing to accomplish your goals, and then you've got the diet component. And again, both of those, depending on what your goals are, can vary so much. It's like, I was just in Arkansas speaking at an event, and a buddy of mine, drove down for the event, and we were having dinner. Now he's ranked, I mean, set world records in powerlifting, and like this dude is just a beast, when it comes to throwing around massive weight, for that. So his training style is so vastly different than my training style, but we have two totally different goals.
Right.
Like his goal is just strength, and mine's like, hey, dude, I want to, have a little bit of muscle. Like I have an aesthetic look I want to have, there. I want to be, at or sub 8% body fat, and I want to have optimal energy, and of course overall health. But it's like, okay, when I say optimal energy, I mean, for me, I define that by I want to have enough energy to get through 16 hours a day and just not need a nap in the middle of the day, like to be able to push through the day, and get through the day and feel good through the day. So, I've had to tweak and, identify, the things that allow me to get there, where again, like talking with him, his training side, everything is just totally different,
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, you have to be specific. I think for most people, just like the extreme of a sport too, if it's the extreme arm of powerlifting, that's a very nuanced or very niche environment in working out. And so is bodybuilding or trying to step on stage, but I think most people just want to feel better, gain a little bit of muscle, lose body fat. And that's real easy to do. You just almost anything that you do, as long as you get in the gym and your diet is close to being good, you can see changes right away. You don't have to be an expert in working out or have the perfect plan. You just really need to show up at the gym and go. I mean, that's the best way to start and build a habit.
Yeah. Yep. 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 Couldn't agree more, dude. Yeah. And I'm just kind of, thinking through this too, of not just, like I was having this conversation at my event last week, and, I was talking about, hey, I just turned 41 years old, because I was getting some health and fitness questions. And I was like, not only do I factor in the way that I eat, the way that I train, the way that, I work with, our optimal health physicians and get our blood work done and monitor all that stuff. I was like, not only do I do it to hit my goals that I have in the immediate, like the now goals, like, but I'm also training and doing things, thinking about 10, 20, plus years down the road, so I'm like, even like with the way I resistance train, I'm like, okay, I want to be able to have healthy joints, and actually I know you and I were talking about him a couple of weeks ago offline, but, Mike O'Hearn, I heard him on a podcast, sit there and say, yeah, he goes, I like the way he trains now today is thinking also in mind of how he wants to be training in 20 years from now, and thinking of it that way, so that way you can train smart, to be able to stay in the game,
Yeah, I think that's I wish I would have had that mindset in my 20s. My body would have been a little bit more together, I think. But when you're headed towards an extreme version of a sport, sometimes you don't think ahead that far. But yeah, especially at this point in the game, 40s, 50s, my body's changed a lot over the last 5, 6 years too. It's more difficult for me to hold on to muscle mass. And so I have to eat differently if I fast. It seems really bad for me retaining muscle. So I don't fast at all. My training's a little bit more high volume, and it's changed a little bit for the longevity and trying to maintain muscle as opposed to, still 5 years ago was, strength and size, and it was a little bit easier to hold. So it's an ever changing thing too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, I mean, okay, you set the goals, right. And this would be, for those that are watching and listening to it, because I'm always thinking about, you know, um, like what are the threats, right? Like meaning, what are the things that could knock me off course? What are the things that could block me from following my diet, from working out, from staying with this consistently, and so forth? I mean, what are, I don't know, some top tips or things that just paying attention to that. So then that way you can stay consistent with it, not just long enough to go out there and get the goal. Cause anybody that's been doing this long enough, and I shouldn't say anybody, but like guys like me for sure, it's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride, like I'll get in great shape, stay in great shape for a year, and then I'll start falling off. The next thing you know, I've gained 15 pounds and I don't really, kind of sneaks up on me subtly. Then I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh shit, right. And I got to get back to it.
Yeah.
And, I've been more cognizant about, ensuring that stuff doesn't happen, but it's easy to happen. It's like when I was losing my first, initially when I was losing my 100 pounds, I'll tell people like it wasn't really, the total weight from my heaviest point to, where I'm at now, where I maintain is about 107 pounds. But I'm like, that journey really wasn't 100 pounds. It was probably, if I would have calculated, probably several hundred pounds, because I'd, lose 40. And then all of a sudden I gain back 15 of that. And then I lose, 30. And then I gain back, 35. It was just this, of a ride.
Yeah. Well, I think I talk about comfort zone all the time, right? So my comfort zone is usually to where I take my shirt off at the beach. I don't feel so good about myself to, I'm in great shape. and kind of staying in that zone and varying in that, I'm able to live and enjoy myself and not really kill myself all the time. But I've narrowed that zone down to a very specific parameter, right? And I think that you just kind of touched on that. Initially, when you were losing the weight, your zone was this big, your comfortable zone, you'd be like, oh man, I got to get back on it. Okay, I lost, I did this. And now, once you're used to being in shape for so long, your comfort zone is a lot more narrow. And I think that just comes with time and discipline, and then being in that body for a longer period of time. You know how to reel it in and keep it kind of sustainable for you in your life. And that's one of the things that I think people starting out have a real hard time doing is, is this going to be a diet and then I go back to eating whatever I want afterwards? I think once you realize, hey, this is going to be a lifestyle and this is what it's going to take to stay in that, and then you develop those habits. If you go off and have a dinner, or you had a weekend or whatever, and you can come right back on Monday or Sunday and dial it right back in, then I think you're getting used to staying in that zone that you want to be in. And it just takes time and discipline to develop that, I think. But in the beginning, some of the ways that I see people fail right away is not preparing their food, not having food with them, not accepting the fact that you're not going to just leave the house for 8 or 9 hours with nothing prepped, because if you don't have a plan in place, you're going to end up through a drive-through or through this, or even worse, not eating and then eating a bunch when you get home or whatever the case. And so you really have to prepare yourself for how this, if it is a diet, if you want to lose weight, whatever, you have to be prepared every day for that, and not let yourself be without food, not let yourself be without a way to get the food that you need to eat, or skip all day and then eat whatever and think it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, man. It's, I mean, success comes with the preparation and the planning, and I have to do it every day. Okay, well, here's my meeting schedule. Here's what this looks like, making sure everything that I pack, everything is there, you know, um, just paying attention to taking inventory all the time. Okay, do I have the meat that I need? Do I have this? Okay, got to hit the store, and I'll always, making sure I've got several days ahead of time of that, because I've had to learn the hard way that, oh shit, now I'm out. And then it throws me off for a day or half a day of eating. And then, and I know a lot of people today, man, they're on the road, whatever that is, like just assessing that, breaking that down, analyzing that, even like when we go out to like, okay, like this Saturday, we got a Halloween party. Okay, well, the party starts here. I got to assume that there's not going to be good, healthy foods that are, in the parameters of what I want to do. So, and I'll even do this like when we go to, out to eat with dinner parties with other people, it's like, okay, like I'm going to probably eat before, just in
Yeah.
case they don't have certain things there. Now with my diet today, it's a little bit easier. I don't want to say that I'm on the, carnivore diet, because I'm not, because I still, but my diet pretty much consists of meat for almost every meal, but I'm definitely taking in some carbohydrates and so forth too. But there's not a lot of places that I can't go to and get just a plain grilled steak, so
Right.
it's a little bit easier today than, diets I followed in the past. But yeah, I think that's becomes huge just with all things, is just, what's your schedule look like, and having that same intentionality with your meals, so you don't get stuck making a bad decision.
Right. I mean, that's it. I've carried a cooler with me for 20 years, literally. And if I'm out for the day and I know that I'm going to be, I'm not going to be home in time to eat, or I'm going to be out and I know I'm going to be hungry, there's always a shake in my car ready to go, just add water, or the coolers with me. That's just how it is, man. I don't know any other way to do it.
Yeah, and there's I don't know like if you have any special coolers that you like, but I have one of these that's actually called 6-pack coolers. I don't know if you've seen those,
Yeah.
but they're cool, man. It's not like a 6-pack of beer. It's for those that are, watching or listening, it's, got essentially compartments in there for 6 different, meals, and I think that's including protein shakes on the side. But I can comfortably fit 3 meals in there, plus a shake or two. And then how the ice packs are all situated, and with the Tupperware, it keeps it cold for like up to 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are pretty high tech. I got the old cube that I've had literally for 20 years. But it serves a purpose. My Tupperware fits right in there perfect. And to your point, always have something ready. Even in the car now without the cooler, there's a shake container in there with protein ready to go, ready to add water just in case. Because how many times have you been stuck in traffic and you're dying, or whatever? Just always been prepared for that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And then, if people are having a difficult time, let's just say ramping up to it, like, let's just say somebody's watching, listening to this that is, like I used to be, dude, that was eating Taco Bell for every meal, because I'm like 5'10", and at my peak I was almost 280 pounds, so morbidly obese, and it was very difficult. It wasn't just difficult to go from eating like absolute utter shit from every meal to eating healthy, like, but even doing that like once a day, it was, so for people that, just don't have experience with this, that are kind of going from the extremes, I mean, any kind of like, ease in suggestions, like meaning, like just not going from this extreme to this extreme, but kind of like introducing things in slowly so you can like slowly develop their, those different habits.
Yeah, that's really why I like an app like that Carbon Diet Coach, because you say, hey, okay, I get 2,700 calories today. Go ahead, go to Taco Bell, punch in everything that you're eating and see how much calories that is. And that'll help you decide, okay, well, instead of the bean burrito, man, I'm going to try the salad bowl. Okay, oh shit, I just ate 600 calories or whatever it is. And that's the best tool that I have to start changing people's ways, or the way that you think about food. Hey, hey, I'm still going to have the burger, but I'm going to cut the fries. Oh, sweet. I just saved 500 calories. Okay, I can live with that. Those little changes like that. And I think that's the way that you eventually start to identify, oh man, why is this 1,000 calories? Oh, it has a bunch of fat in it. And it kind of teaches you along the way, if you're going to be compliant with it and say, okay, I'm going to stick at this. If it says 2,700 calories, that's what I'm going to eat today. It really teaches you about the calorie density in foods. I think normal people don't think about that stuff. And I think that's a really good way to start. And that's the way I start everybody, because then you start to realize, oh, well, shit, if I didn't eat this caloric dense food that's high in fat, I can have 3 more meals of protein and carbs. Okay. And then you kind of start to steer yourself away from those types of foods.
Yeah. I mean, we start breaking down the math. There's about 3,500 calories per pound, right? So, I mean, if you're at several hundred calories of excess on a daily basis of, your body maintenance caloric, whatever that may be, so you're at a surplus of just, a couple hundred a day, which the average person is probably greatly over that. I mean, very quickly, it's easy to start stacking on that extra 5, 10, 15 pounds a year, and then you just compound that year over year after year, and it just exacerbates the problem. And yeah, I mean, awareness, like with anything, awareness is such a huge element. What's the name of that app again? Just, I know that there's
Carbon Diet Coach.
Carb and Diet.
No, carbon. Carbon.
Oh, carbon.
Yeah.
So like CARBON, carbon.
Yeah, I believe so. Let me double check.
And Diet Coach. Okay. Just because I know we got a lot of people driving that listen to this, and just in case they missed that.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can.
CARBON Diet Coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And that's not, that's just one that you like, that you use,
Well, it's, you actually have to pay for that one, but it's really well put together and it guides you step by step. Hey, how many calories should I eat? I don't know. How much do you weigh? How fat are you? Okay. It kind of figures that stuff out and helps along the way. It's just a kind of a smooth one that I've seen and recommended to people.
Yeah. Yep. No, I dig it. How important do you find, and I'm just thinking of things that like I know for me are important, right? So just asking your opinion, because I don't know if this is stuff that helps others, but I'm assuming it does. Because I know it correlates over to business, and it's like it's all the same shit, right? It's all math at the end of the day. But how important is environment? When it comes to this, like controlling your environment, like the people that you're spending time with, where you're spending your time, all of those things, because at least for me, that makes a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be on a diet and watch what you're doing and hang around with guys who go to the bar and eat chicken wings and drink beer after work until they pass out, right? I mean, that's not going to work. And you do, just like you were talking about, hey, if we're going to go out to eat, then I got to do this and this and this. And you have to kind of isolate yourself from some of those situations. that you know you're going to fail in. But you know, just like anything else, if you have a big business presentation or a big customer meeting in the morning, you're not going to stay out till 3 a.m., right? Partying or doing whatever. So you kind of same type of thing. But yeah, I think being around people too who are healthy and want to kind of change or are more in lines of the way that you're thinking are important. You know,
Yeah.
certainly, you know, going to a family party where everybody's obese and eating cake and there's 18,000 desserts on the table. You know, I mean, that's a hard environment to be successful in.
Yeah, yeah. It's you know, like I said, then think about like the people that we hang out with, you know, it's like, okay, like, you know, when we're getting together, it's like, well, where are we gonna go hike? It's not like, you know, let's go get wasted at the, you know, in those, you know,
Right.
that used to be my other circle back in the day. I'm not saying that, you know, I didn't, you know, live that life, but I found that, you know, it'd be no different than, okay, if I want to grow a business, well, I'm probably going to have more success if I'm hanging around with other entrepreneurs that are driven, that have strong work ethics, other than if all my friends are just always, oh, you know, if they're enablers, oh, you just work too much. Why are you doing that? You know, like eventually it's going to tear you down, man. And I don't think
Right.
anybody is mentally strong enough to not let that wear on them over time. You
Oh
know,
yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. You can survive in that environment for a day or a night, but being around that constantly is very difficult. I think
yeah.
to be separate and not let that creep into your thoughts.
Yeah, and I tell you, you know, I can be one of the hardest parts, dude. Well, you know, I'm sure for some people, and it was for me for some time too. Of, you know, because if you start looking at just the way our society is, it's like everything is around food, man. It's, you know, like you start hanging out with people or getting together, family, or like people coming to town. It's, you know, I don't know, you're eating breakfast, and then they're saying, well, what do you guys want to do for lunch? What do you want to do for dinner? What do you want to, you know? But then it's like every holiday, like we got Halloween coming up with all the kids. It's like everything in like not everything, but so much in our society and our just culture is around food, and unfortunately unhealthy foods, where yeah, man, it's, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm living in a world on my own, like, you know, because it's like, you know, I don't drink anymore, you know, eating clean. And then, you know, I don't really partake in the smartphone world. I mean, I have one for, you know, business and so forth, but like I'm never like weekends, evenings, like I don't even carry it with me. You know, I pretty much have it just because my wife makes me have it in case something happens to me or something. But, you know, it's like we'll go out to eat, you know, or get together people, and everybody's drinking, everybody's eating, you know, whatever. And then everybody's on their phones. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm serving around, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, there's some of that you got to push through, you know, but, you know, what do you want most?
No, that's a good point, man. Sometimes you're going to have to shed some of the people in your life to get where you want to go, man, because you know they're not conducive to that goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell, you know, I mean, things that work for me. Now this is, well, and even still today, you know, right. Not in the same way, but it was like, I mean, I had to do some weird shit, dude, you know, when I was going through this. Now, the first one thing I want to say to the point that you made earlier of, you know, understanding your caloric intake and what you're taking in, you know, a lot of the weight that I lost, I was eating shit food. I just made sure I was at a calorie deficit. Now, I'm not
Yeah,
saying that that's the most healthy way to go,
it
you know,
works.
but it works, dude. You know, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I was listening to, you know, Stan Efferning that you turned me on to, a podcast of his, and you know, he was like, as much as I hate to admit this or say this, he goes, 95% of you know, overall, I guess, God, I don't know the way to put it, but you know, of age related diseases that, if you will, that comes from, you know, of health effects or negative health impacts and effects. He goes, 95% of it is just eliminated from losing the weight, and you know, not being overweight, not being obese. You know, the other 5% can be gained from, I guess, what you eat, and again, I'm botching the way that he put that, but you
Well,
know,
when you take a normal person, that's you know the average American, and you drop 10% of their body fat, all biomarkers improve. Doesn't matter. Insulin, diabetes, I mean, fasting insulin, insulin resistance, your blood lipids, everything improves. Doesn't matter how you do it. You could be eating all sugar, you know, whatever a Sour Patch Kids diet, but if you lose 10% of your body fat, your biomarkers improve. I mean, it's that easy, man.
yeah.
It's that easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Now there are a couple things that I've found. Well, and here's the, I don't want to say it's a blessing because I know but if there's to be a silver lining with all this inflation that we're experiencing, is, hopefully it's driving people to eat out less and eat at home more and start meal prepping more, and because dude, it's and it's just going to continue to exacerbate for some time. I mean, we're just entering, we're just finishing up last year's food stock, right? So like we haven't even really felt the impacts of what the cost of food is going to be over the next couple of years, with that. So, hopefully that'll be the silver lining, like even with, the negativity of the COVID, hopefully it got people to, I mean, there was some silver linings there, may have got some people to pay more attention to their health. Definitely seemed like for most that I know, and seemed true for me, got people to spend more time with their family, and playing games again, board games again, like just doing things like that. So, there can always be a silver lining with this stuff. So, I don't know where I was going with, oh no.
Well, it
Go
just
ahead.
blows my mind how many people can't cook or don't prepare food at home on a regular basis. It's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really astonishing. But
Well, and I'm guilty of that too, right? But I can cook the things that I eat, I because I got to the point. I mean, I even for a while there I was hiring these meal prep companies, but the issue with
yeah,
that is you still can't. Like, I don't know if this is good food. Like, I don't, like, I don't know how it's being prepped. I don't know what ingredients that they're utilizing. I don't know. And for me, once you get to a certain point, maybe, but for me, I definitely feel a difference. And it might just be psychological, but when I'm eating, good, like you always talk about one ingredient foods, good, clean source of foods. But, I have been studying, when I say studying, just listen to some podcasts here and there, you know, with, and again, it could be psychological, but at least it feels to be true for me, because you get some of this highly processed foods, even though, yeah, calories in, calories out, but that manipulate your ghrelin levels. So then you're eating these, you're not getting full in the same way. Like when I'm eating good food versus the shit, and even yeah, eating the shit allowed me to lose the weight. But now it's like I might even eat the same caloric intake, but like I feel full. Like it holds me over for the next 3 hours. I'm not, having to force myself to stop.
well, one of the things that you have to think about, and we've talked about this before, but when you pick up a packaged food on the shelf, like a potato chip, for instance, I mean, do you know how many resources were poured into that product that is in the potato chip bag? How many millions of dollars and years of research and development go into that product? And that product isn't made to do anything good for your body. That product is made to make you want more of them and eat more of them and buy more, period. And so, yeah, they've reverse engineered all the biology, all the ghrelin, the hunger levels, everything that you're talking about, the variety of food, the crispness, the crunchiness, the saltiness, everything that's involved in that, and kind of been able to hack or hardwire your system to want you to eat more of those. And so every time you eat something like that, it's not good for your body. Just know it's not designed to be good for you. It's designed for you to make you want more and buy more of them, eat more of them. And that's it. And if you think about it that way, okay, maybe here and there you can have some, but it's not really something that you should be buying on a consistent basis because it has no health benefit at all, and if you're making single ingredient foods, prepping your meal, that's a much more conducive way to at least ensure you're eating foods that are going to be healthy for you, probably more satisfying, and help you attain your overall goals.
Yeah. And what is cool about it is over time, you get to the point where you love your diet,
Oh yeah,
which sounds weird, but it's like when we go out of town, where like the thing I'm always most excited about is to get home, get back in my routine and eat my, which I'm eating the same things every day, same times. It sounds like
yeah.
it would just be torture, but you get to a point where, man, it's the opposite. It's like I love it, and anytime I have to get off of it, or I take a cheat day or something, because once in a while that sounds good, and then I always live to regret the hell out of it, you know.
Yeah.
So eventually that pendulum swings.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree. It's
Yeah.
It's funny how that works, man.
Yeah. So what
But
I
it
was
does.
gonna, I went off on another tangent earlier, but what I was gonna, say to just those watching and listening of, and again, it's gonna be different for everybody. We all are at different starting points. Now, when I was at my heaviest and kind of starting this journey, it was all things that we talked about today. Got extremely clear on why I had these goals, why they were important to me. But then, and this is going to sound silly, but like I would do things because you're going to have those cravings. And it took a long time for me to get, mentally strong enough, whatever, disciplined enough willpower, whatever you want to call it, to not give into that stuff. Right. So, I found little hacks like, and again, this is going to sound silly as shit, but it worked for me, anytime that like I was starting to crave something, I felt like I was going to get into it. I'd go into the bathroom, I'd lock the door, even if I was at like a party or something, right? Lock the door, I'd rip my shirt off, and I just like jump up and down and watch my boobs jiggle, my gut jiggling everywhere, and
The
and I
truffle
just
shuffle.
oh yeah, and I'm just saying that, and I'm like, okay, like, do I want this or do I want that? Because I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, that's all it comes down to is we are a result of our habits, our decisions, moment by moment. Even now today, and I know I've shared this in the past, and it's kind of an embarrassing thing to admit, but it really works well for me now. I work out, I have a home gym set up, and I work out super early in the morning so my family's still asleep, but I work out in my freaking boxers every morning, and that to me, it's like, dude, if you got a little, fat in the lower abs, and you're doing bent over rows, you're seeing yourself in the mirrors, it's like you can see all of that. And that for me is, kind of that accountability front where it helps me stay on that diet because I know I have an expectation of how I want to look in that mirror every single day while I'm working out. And if I ever start to get a little lax in that, I can immediately start to see those changes and reverse course, because it is an ongoing process.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. That's a great way to hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
But even just, the daily check-in, you step out of the shower and you look in the mirror, it's like, oh man, mirror doesn't lie, man. Mirror,
Yeah, that
the
was
mirror
one thing I
doesn't
enjoyed
bullshit.
about it's one of the things I enjoyed about 75 hard. And
Yeah.
and I didn't necessarily do that for the I was just looking for a challenge, and I did it, because they even say on that it's not a health challenge, it's a more of a mental challenge, but there's a health component to it. And one of the things that you had to do each and every day for 75 days straight was take a picture of yourself, and you had to, like, your shirt off or being bathing suit or your underwear or whatever, and nobody sees it but you. But every day you have this collage every day for 75 days. Well, it's like, once like I never wanted today's picture to look worse than yesterday's picture. Is like I wanted to see that, and then wanted to see next week's look better. It's just that daily progress. All of that stuff, man. At least for me, I found it to be really powerful.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's one of the things too, clients will ask, hey, do you want me to weigh in? Do you want, we don't really need that. The way your clothes fit, the way that you look in the mirror in the morning after the shower. And we'll get there. I mean, if it's working or not. I don't have to have you to weigh. You can tell me like, hey, my clothes are fitting better. Hey, yeah, I noticed in the mirror, I'm looking a little bit different, and that's just holding yourself accountable. It's probably the best tool there is, especially if you're motivated to really change. I mean, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, the last, I guess, tip that, I'll give you guys, and this is just something that, worked really well for me, and, it's worked for, some, when I say clients, like I don't take money and exchange money for this stuff. For friends, let's put it that way, that, are also, or we're also more of the obese that are looking to go, that were the extremes like I was at to get down, because again, when you have somebody that's, 300 pounds, that's never worked out a day in their life, never dieted, and there's a reason why they're 300 pounds, it can be, very difficult. And it was for me too. But and again, it's going to be different based on, some people are just wired where it's just like, hey man, I could just jump into something full force and be rocking and roll, and others can't, and so, just and again, this is just what worked really well for me. And I've got a few friends that have helped over the years that, that's helped them. And they had a lot of success with, losing 50 to 100 pounds, and also maintaining that and long term, where it wasn't just a fad thing, drop some weight. Because, Jim said earlier of this being a lifestyle, so, just introducing or eliminating like one thing at a time. And maybe you can do two things, like as an example, gentlemen, and I'm last guy that I helped. It was like, okay, first two things that we did, we identified, okay, like what's the culprit? What's like, if if I don't know, you go into the hospital and you're bleeding everywhere. Well, like where's the bullet hole? Where's the wound so we can stop the bleeding? Well, let's first start there, right? So I'm like, what was that thing? So for this person, it was, okay, well, after, he's an entrepreneur. So after kids go to bed, or, wife goes to bed, everybody goes to bed. Well, I start binging a little Netflix. I, have a couple Jack and Cokes. After a long day of work, all of that, willpower's out the window. Now I start raiding the cabinets, because he was also, gaining about 20 to 30, net pounds every year, so I'm like, okay, well, we got to stop the problem. So, first thing that we did there was identify it. And then I was like, okay, let's set up a strict sleep schedule. Like, I want you to be in bed at 9 and then up at 5 a.m. every day. And I had him, he had to do an accountability thing and got his wife on board to make sure of that. So then that way I was like, let's just eliminate that whole evening thing out of your routine. So like, we just get on the schedule, eliminate that. In addition to that, I'm like, dude, I just want you to start hydrating. So, 36 ounces of water first thing when you wake up, then 16 ounces every 15 minutes before each meal. So then just got him used to drinking water. So then it was, so just starting to eliminate some of the other, so he wasn't drinking his calories. And we just, stayed on that for like 30 days until that became habitual, became easy, and then it was like, okay, now let's just focus on meal one, right? And keep those other things in place. And then, okay, let's get meal one. After 30 days, that became not even a thought. Like, it was easy, became habitual. Now let's work on meal two, then meal three. So yeah, I mean, it took, it might take 12 weeks or even 6 months for certain people, right, to build up. But eventually, after that 4 to 6 months, it's like, dude, now it's like, you don't have to think about it. It's all habitual. It becomes that lifestyle, and I'm only bringing this up just in case it's, if you've had trouble in the past of just going from this one extreme to this other extreme, it can, just focusing on one habit at a time, or like, one, adding or subtracting one thing at a time until it becomes easy. You don't have to think about it. And then boom, pumping in the other thing.
Yeah, that's a great strategy. One of the things that I used to, because I get I get questions from you, from friends, family, all that stuff. And it's like, well, are you drinking soda? Yeah. Okay, well, switch to diet, or don't drink any of it. Switch to water, tea, or something like that. The people who actually do that, hey, see them a month later, 2 months later, hey, I've lost 10 pounds. Okay, great. Well, now what? Well, I don't know. Let's take a look at it and, start just baby stepping some things. And then, you eliminate one thing, it becomes habit. It's part of your lifestyle now, and then move on to the next one. It's a great strategy to walk into something like that, rather than, hey, cold turkey tomorrow, I'm doing this, this, and this, and this. No, I really like that. Yeah.
Yep. Awesome, man. Well, is there anything that we missed that we didn't cover, as now we're entering kind of that time of year where people are starting to set New Year's resolutions and planning?
Well, that's the way that I always start everybody out on a diet, or that really wants help, is, first you need to understand what you're eating, how much you're eating, how many calories they are, how many calories that really equates. And then we can kind of start from there. If you want to lose some body fat, if you want to put some muscle on, all right, well, we're going to have to know how much you're eating now, what your habits are, and then kind of make some changes. And they can be slow changes. It doesn't have to go from, I'm eating crazy all day, every day, to, this strict diet. But without really knowing what you're eating and how many calories, it's hard to start somewhere, or it's hard to really identify where to go. And that's why I always start people with that logging of food. And no, you're not going to have to weigh and measure your food for the rest of your life, but to get to a point where it's your lifestyle and you know how to control it, and you can look at a steak and go, yeah, that's about 8 ounces, or, whatever, you have to do that. And that's a tool I use too. As soon as I start to want to cut down, or, I want to make a change, I go right back to logging food to make sure that I'm on point, and then, kind of drift off from that when I have control again. But that's the easiest way I know how to start, and start to really understand what foods make you do what, make your body do what.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so if you're going to try to change January 1st, I would start with that exercise right now.
Yep. Yep. Love it. Yeah. No, last thing I'd say, which we've already said it, 20 times during this podcast, but it's, comes back to that, never sacrifice what you want most for what you want in the moment. So get that clarity on what is that you want most, why you want it, why it's important to you. Find the best plan to get you there. But then, when those moments come up that you want to sacrifice what you want most for what you want in the moment, the more clear that you are on what you want most. And this is why, like, I would do that bathroom trick that I told you guys about, or this is why I'm big on vision boards. This is why, I try to set my environment up to make it, like, I try to set my environment up as much as I possibly can to make it very easy to succeed and very hard to fail. Like an example, man, when I quit drinking alcohol, well, the first time I quit drinking alcohol. So the first time I quit drinking alcohol, I had a massive problem with it. Like, I couldn't go to like noon without drinking, and I was crushing, 12 plus beers every single day. And for about a year or so. And then at that point, I reintroduced it to see if I had control over it. And I did. And, then I could have one or two, but before it was like, I had 1, 2, I'm having 20, right. And then I eventually just gave it up altogether, just wasn't serving me anymore. But the first time when I was addicted to it and was problematic, I was like, okay, like I step number 1, I got to get it all completely out of the house, because if it was in the house, I was going to drink it. I was too weak. I was going to cave into it. So I had to get it from the house. And then in addition to that, like, I just made a list, just knowing how powerful environment is. Okay, what are the environments that if I put myself in that environment, I know I'm too weak to say no to this thing. So it's like, okay, I'm eating out, like, barbecues, events that just essentially any event that had that around. And it took me about 6 months of, not having in the house, not going out to eat, not going to, or if we went out to eat, I had to make sure it was like, I don't know, a place that didn't have alcohol, but eventually after about 6 months, like, it got to a point where I had the willpower, I had the strength, I could be around those things. So it wasn't an indefinite thing, but it, was a temporary thing that my, friends, family members knew, and they respected it, that, they all supported me getting control over that substance. And, so thinking about that too, again, I know Jim and I talked about that here, but, that environment, and again, trying to make it where it's as easy as possible to succeed and as hard as possible to fail. So it's like, okay, if there's certain foods that you're going to cave into, just don't have them in the house. Get buy-in from your family, whatever. They can figure out an alternative that maybe you don't like as much, or whatever, that they can, it won't be forever, but, and it may be forever if it needs to be. Like for me with the alcohol thing, if it would have been a forever thing, fine. It was like, I knew I needed to overcome that. For me, it ended up being about 6 months, but, just make sure that you're setting that environment up to succeed.
Yeah, well said. I don't have anything to add. That's it. Not having stuff in the house is huge, man. Huge. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. For me, there's certain cereals that if I have in the house right now, I'm eating that damn box of cereal. Yeah. Right.
If you're a cookie in the house, you're getting eaten. Sorry.
Yep.
It's just going to happen. So, we all have our limits.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. All right, Jim. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here, man.
Yeah, man.
And, those that are watching and listening, truly appreciate you guys. Make sure you're setting those goals, being diligent with it. We wish you the absolute best. We appreciate all you guys' support. Keep crushing it. And we'll talk to you next time. Peace.